Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us here for Crime 2 News First at 4. I'm Whitney Ward.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Mark Hanrahan. We start with some breaking news at this hour because rescue crews have pulled the body of at least one person from Latah Creek in Spokane today. The body was found near the Sunset Boulevard Bridge this afternoon.
Police are currently investigating exactly how that person ended up in the water. This is a developing story. We'll continue to bring you updates just as soon as we have them.
We're also tracking new details tonight about the deadly road rage shooting that happened on I-90 last week.
That suspect, who police say is behind the drive-by shooting, appeared in court this afternoon on a second-degree murder charge. Newly filed court documents say a child was also in the car with the suspect at the time.
Crime 2's Amanda Broley joining us live now from the Spokane County Courthouse with new details from the victim's fiance. Amanda?
Well, court documents include a first-hand account of the drive-by shooting from the fiance of the driver who died last week. It appears David Knofel died trying to protect her. Now, according to those documents, Knofel's fiance told investigators the suspect, identified as Trevin Lewis, followed her on I-90 and drove aggressively around her. She said he eventually pointed a gun at her through his window. Knofel was in a separate car and drove in between the two. Then she heard a loud pop. Other witnesses told investigators they heard at least 4 gunshots. Court documents say Knofel suffered a gunshot wound to the ribs and died at the scene where his car crashed. As investigators searched for the suspect, they learned a 9-year-old was in the car with him at the time of the shooting. A witness also came forward and told investigators the suspect's wife admitted that Lewis was the shooter in the fatal road rage. She told the witness Lewis used one of her guns and asked her to take the fall since she didn't have any felonies. In court today, a judge set his bond at $1 million. And as the judge read Lewis's second-degree murder charge, the suspect shook his head and made these statements.
And you understand the charge against you here today?
Yes.
Thank you. And so
It's
it
all
does
fraudulent.
Okay. And certainly you'll have an opportunity to defend against
With all
that.
these frivolous
Mr.
allegations.
Lewis, please don't say anything to this.
Now, court documents say Lewis was currently on DOC supervision for first-degree manslaughter. DOC records show he started serving his sentence for this charge in September of 2014. He was transferred to community custody in April last year. Now, court documents say Lewis checked in with his corrections supervisor the same day as the fatal road rage. Now, the corrections officer told investigators Lewis had been under her supervision for about 2.5 months with no issues or concerns. Reporting from the Spokane County Courthouse, Amanda Rowley, Crime 2 News.
All right, Amanda, thank you. And today, the man accused of a beating death of a 77-year-old man in Spokane had his bond set at $750,000.
Spokane police charged 44-year-old George Sessions with murdering the elderly man that he was taking care of. The caretaker initially called 911, saying the victim, Kenneth Witten, had fallen down the stairs. But while in the hospital, the 77-year-old said that just wasn't true, telling police instead that his caregiver tortured him for 12 hours. A victim impact statement written by Witten's niece was read in court today.
Going over the brutal attack daily and never understood why it happened before his death.
Family says the victim was fearful of Sessions, and during the statement, the family also said they were concerned that if Sessions made bond, he would also be a flight risk.
An arrest has been made in the deadly shooting that took place near the House of Charity on Sunday morning.
Wesley Goings of Spokane was arrested in Missoula for second-degree murder. That shooting happened downtown. One person was killed at the scene. Another person was shot and injured. Police say some type of fight or argument led up to the shooting. The arrest was made by Missoula police. Goings will now be extradited back to the state of Washington.
A UPS driver delivering packages in Grant County saved a little girl from drowning. Brian Walters was on his regular route near Soap Lake when he revived the 7-year-old girl.
Crime 2's Kyle Simchuk talked with that UPS driver. He has more tonight about that heroic moment from Grant County.
When he actually just got off his shift. It turns out this UPS driver is also a volunteer firefighter and former reserve police officer. He says there was a lot of people standing over the girl who had just been pulled from a swimming pool. The crowd was panicking, but his first responder instincts kicked in right away.
She was completely blue, unresponsive, not breathing, no pulse that I could find at the moment.
A terrifying scene at a Soap Lake resort this afternoon as a 7-year-old girl was pulled from a swimming pool.
Nobody really knew how long she'd been underwater.
UPS driver Brian Walters is familiar with the Spokane resort.
It's a pretty frequent stop for me, usually 5 days a week.
But today's delivery turned into a life or death emergency. He was about to leave the resort office when a man walked in and mentioned something about a drowning.
He kind of pointed over towards where the pool was, and I was like, oh, okay. So I went to run out the front door, and there was a gentleman carrying this girl.
Walters ran over and began doing CPR, desperately trying to save the little girl's life.
I did CPR for about a minute, and then she started puking up or coughing up the water. A lot of water was coming out, so we put her in the recovery position on her side to allow her to get rid of that water. She still wasn't breathing at that point, so we did that for just a little bit, and then after that, we went back into CPR for another minute or so. The mom was there. She did come in right when we laid her down, and she kind of tried to grab her or hold her or something when I was assessing her. So I kind of just put my arm to stop her.
Eventually, the 7-year-old started gasping for air.
And it actually went as smooth as probably possible.
Paramedics arrived a short time later. The girl was airlifted to a local hospital. Her condition is unknown, but deputies say she was awake and crying. The Grant County Sheriff's Office says Walters saved her life.
If I ever get a chance to see her, say hi to her, I'd love to. I'm praying for them, and my thoughts and prayers are definitely for them.
And even after saving this girl's life, Walters finished his shift delivering all the packages in his truck, getting off a few hours late tonight. In the newsroom, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
Just incredible.
Yeah, good for him, right?
Yeah, right place at the right time. Well, despite the late start, fire season is upon us, and even with a lack of fire starts in the inland Northwest right now, volunteer fire departments that KREM 2 spoke with say they are still searching for volunteers.
KREM 2's Cody Proctor spoke with the Spokane County fire officials to get a feel for where they are with volunteer numbers. Cody?
Well, Mark and Whitney, while the fire season has been a slow start, that doesn't mean that fire districts have not been busy. In fact, they've actually been using some of this time to try to recruit new members and new firefighters. If you take a look at Spokane County Fire District 10's Facebook page, you can see several postings asking for volunteers to join them in their mission of protecting their community. According to Deputy Fire Chief Don Malone, the department received a grant which helped pay for the added advertising. But getting volunteers is a year-round mission for fire crews.
A lot of our volunteers that come to work with us, they're looking for full-time career jobs as well. So a lot of times we'll train them, we'll get them up, we'll get them in their EMT, we'll get them on shifts, and they're only here for a couple years until they get hired off somewhere else. So it's kind of a revolving door.
Malone says right now Fire District 10 has about 15 career firefighters and around 60 volunteers, but the ideal number would be even higher, around 75. But it's not just numbers they take into consideration.
Where I would rather have 30 volunteers that are just totally engaged 100% of the time. So it's really a balance of how much activity that they can respond to or be a part of.
Across the county, in Spokane County Fire District 3, they're also trying to recruit more volunteers. Fire officials here say they've held steady over the years, with volunteer numbers staying around 125. However, officials say their call numbers have gone up about 10% each year, and their participation has also dropped over the years.
I think life gets in the way. People are busier now than they have been.
The drive to hire more firefighters is a big part for Fire District 3's first EMS levy. If it passes, Brunke says it could help drop response times and staff more stations. Yet even with more calls and lower participation numbers, fire officials say they're ready for whatever call sparks up.
The volunteers have a big heart, special heart, and when we need them, we call them and they'll come running.
Now, voting on Spokane County Fire District 3's EMS levy takes place on the upcoming August ballot. In Spokane County, Cody Proctor, KREM 2 News.
All right, Cody, thank you very much. And on that note, let's talk weather now, because we are seeing some of the hottest temperatures that we have seen all summer.
Scorcher out there today. Let's check in with meteorologist Michelle Bosch. She's in for Jeremy today. Michelle, it is Friday Eve. What's the forecast looking for going forward?
Well, it's going to be hot, but the hot temperatures we're seeing right now are more typical hot temperatures. The real scorcher is going to be coming next week, where we could be approaching 100 degrees. So here's a look at your weekend forecast. If you want to make plans, Saturday looks like to be the cooler day of the weekend with mostly sunny skies, highs in the upper 80s. We'll be back in the 90s on Sunday and then probably stay in the 90s much of next week. Currently, it's warm out there right now, 91 in Spokane, 92 in Deer Park, in the mid 90s from Othello up towards Omak back and 98 degrees in Lewiston. Satellite and radar showing a few more clouds today than what we saw yesterday. We will actually see an increase in clouds overnight with a very slight chance of some early morning thunderstorms, but that should clear out by tomorrow afternoon. So in the short-term forecast should be quiet weather for this evening. Plenty of hot temperatures out there, cooling down only into the low to mid 60s, so kind of a mild night as well. Chance of a few isolated morning showers and then partly cloudy on Friday and breezy, 87, and then temperatures really just go on from there.
Hey folks, guess you heard this morning I tested positive for COVID, but I've been double vaccinated, double boosted. Symptoms are mild.
President Biden addressing the country today after he tested positive for COVID-19 this morning.
The president is still working and confining himself to the White House to recover. According to the White House and Biden himself, he's only experiencing mild symptoms.
The president is 79 years old. He's now started taking Paxlovid, which is the antiviral treatment for COVID made by Pfizer. The press secretary says this is the first time the president has tested positive for COVID.
Happening tonight, the U.S. House January 6th committee will hold another primetime hearing.
Tonight's hearing is focused on former President Trump's actions as rioters were violently storming the Capitol and how law enforcement worked to try and control the situation.
Ahead of tonight's hearing, Select Committee member Adam Kinzinger tweeted a preview video of video depositions of White House staffers who were with the former president while the assault on the Capitol was unfolding.
He was always in the dining room. It's my understanding he was watching television.
Was the violence Capitol visible on the screen on the television?
Yes.
CBS News has confirmed the star witnesses are expected to be the former Deputy White House Press Secretary and former Deputy National Security Advisor. And the Washington Post reports the hearing could include bombshell evidence from outtakes of former President Trump's response to the country the day after the attacks. CBS will have live coverage of the hearing tonight starting at 5 o'clock, so we will not be airing Crampton News at 5 or 6 tonight. However, we will be back tonight at 7 o'clock with a look at your local news.
And we do want to warn you now, it's expected there will be a lot of strong language heard during tonight's hearing.
Well, Washington's primary election just 2 weeks away, so we want to help you get to know your local candidates.
This week, we are talking with Spokane County candidates who are running for prosecuting attorney.
I think gun ownership is a responsibility, and I think people need to take it seriously.
That is Deb Conklin. She is one of 3 women now running for the position of Spokane County prosecutor. We'll hear Amanda Rowley's interview with her coming up right after the break.